Okay, is it working now? Is it coming through? Oh, okay. Oh, it'll just be in there.
But don't think you guys are crazy if you hear things coming out of here. I think you're still gonna hear him, so.
That'll be good. A little bit of echo is probably not going to hurt anybody. I can't hear it now, so I think we're okay.
Okay, I think he should be good.
Okay.
Nothing else. It looks like it's recording you and it's recording your screen, so.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, you go ahead. I'm ready if you're ready, I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
Welcome everybody to this evening's program. This is the second in a series of local authors programs that we're featuring this fall. We have another one coming up October 22nd. That will be Miranda Collins, who is from Chanute, and she's working on the third in a series of thrillers that
Well, I'm Steven. I can work probably any other job, and I hope it doesn't get in trouble. Everything, and I'm developing systems for what I'm doing, but then once I've kind of got it figured out, Jordan Peterson said it really well, that creative people who are not creating, they just die. And that's what happens to me. I just start wasting away. So that's this weird, unfortunate thing. I don't think it's just about me, though. I think it is about the artistic, creative personality. And it's fun and affirming to hear it actually corroborated, because I have been living it for a long time. So you see, I've done a lot of stuff over the years. This particular book, let's see here. Ooh, cool. I can see the little picture of myself. So this was a book that I did with a friend of mine, and it ended up being a work of portfolio pieces that I used to get an artist representative. One of the things that I did not realize and that they did not show us in art school, they would teach us how to draw and paint and do all of the illustration stuff and give us assignments and things like that. But they didn't tell us that being an illustrator was actually a business. Like, okay, so this is like, you're going to go out and do this, and you need to realize that in order to make money at, like, they didn't say this, in order to make money at this, there needs to be someone selling your stuff to the people that buy your stuff. And that was a big surprise for me. So after, crashing and burning for a little bit, I ended up getting a job as a staff illustrator. I actually worked at a place for, again, it was about 3 months that I really enjoyed it. And then after that, it was really difficult. I ended up working for that place for about 9 months. That's a worthwhile story. So I wasn't doing much of anything other than making picture frames and doing some paintings and stuff. And I had 2 small twin kids, and out of nowhere, my dad had gone to a meeting with it's the Kansas State Chamber of Commerce, and he sat across the table from this guy who ended up being his name was Barry, I think. And he had a business called Kid Stuff up in Topeka. And they were one of the few places that wasn't an animation studio that actually had staff illustrators. And their main guy had just quit and gone on. He started working for a publishing company in Kansas City. And so they had this opening. And since I don't think this would have happened if I didn't have twin babies, because it was, I went from this attitude of like, I'm not working for the man, to like, well, where's the man? I'll do anything for him. And so I ended up going, and I was, overcame all of my problems with working in an office. And so I was there for about 9 months. I learned to work as to take my stuff from just ink on paper and illustrations just on paper and stuff to actually creating it and putting it into formats and stuff that I could print and get published and stuff. Because before that, I hadn't done anything like that. I hadn't even taken a computer class in college. That stuff was still fairly new in the late 90s. I mean, it had already been mainstream, but the education part was not catching up. So I didn't have a computer. I hadn't taken any computer classes. But then when I got this job, I figured out, okay, I should learn to do this stuff. And I actually got, rather than having to take a class about it, I got trained to do it. And I got paid while I was trained. So that was pretty neat. And I would advocate everybody to do that. If you need to get trained on something, to see if you can get a job doing it. And that's a great way to learn. So I did that, and I got an artist representative a few years later, and that enabled me to do all of these books here. And it was, a little while, lots of life, lots of ups and downs. As I really, again, going along the lines of learning on the job, all of this stuff. With every project, I use each of these book projects to push my skills a little bit farther. And it was there's some of these cycling through, but I had started in 2016 to actually write my own comic strips, and those are the single page Pedro comic strips that were done for the Boys Life magazine. I don't have any of those on me, but it looks like some of these comic pages here. And that was my first foray into writing. And oddly enough, this was pretty weird. I didn't, what I enjoyed most when I was in school and what I was most inspired by, what really turned me on, was the full page comic strip that people would do at the turn of the century and stuff. Well, those are still in the papers, shoot, up through the mid 20th century. You'd have the comics, Sunday comics would take up the whole sheet of paper, and it was a bigger sheet of paper than it is today. So that's the stuff that I actually loved. I would do these single page, full page gag strips. And I was a big fan of Crazy Cat and Little Nemo and Slumberland and all of those things, as well as Peanuts and Calvin and Hobbes later on. And that was my favorite thing to do. And the job that I got for Boys Life magazine was actually doing that. So I get with every magazine, I've got a comic strip that I write and draw. And so that was kind of my initiation into writing. And then I'd always wanted to be a writer ever since I was a kid. And the reason I think that is, and one of the themes that I was really interested in touching on in this talk is the connection with art to spirituality, I guess, divinity. Can I talk about that? So Thomas Paine, I don't know, maybe. Thomas Paine, he was you may know, he was an influential philosopher that really, he was responsible for a lot of the inspiration for the Constitution and a lot of the philosophy that went into the documents of our country and the founding documents and stuff. And he was a deist at best. He was probably agnostic, and he looked at the Bible, and he made some significant judgments about it. But I was listening to his book, The Age of Reason, and he writes, all the remaining parts of the Bible, generally known by the name of the prophets, are the works of the Jewish poets and itinerant preachers who mixed poetry, anecdote, and revelation or devotion together. And these works are all they all fit together, and he summarizes it and says that these prophets were just poets, and all of the other stuff in the Bible it's confusing and it's violent, and it's he had all kinds of criticism to say about it, but his conclusion was that the prophets were poets and they needed to be seen as such. And then when I was listening to this, as a very spiritual person, it occurred to me, oh my gosh, poets, I reversed it in my head for some reason, like poets are prophets. Like there's something naturally prophetic. And when I say prophetic, I don't mean like predicting the future kind of stuff, although that is included, but it's there's this divine connection that we have as creative people, as artists. And I mean that as broadly as you can take it. Anybody who's who's creating, anybody who's thinking creatively, any idea that's taking these ideas out of the ether is connecting with something that isn't here. And I find a lot of significance and a lot of excitement over where these crazy ideas come from. And that for me was a major turning point to realize that. And then it was also a realization as to why the work that I was doing as an illustrator was good. All of these books and stuff that people asked me to draw. These are amplifications of somebody else's vision and somebody else's idea, which is fine. We're all working as a team, and I like that idea. But then I knew that for myself, there was something that was really, there was something more that I wanted to do. And I wasn't really sure why a lot of times, but I knew that I was, frustrated a lot of times, and that there was something in me that wasn't getting expressed. And whenever I would do certain pieces, I would get a level of satisfaction in them that was like, oh my gosh, that actually puts me in a good mood. Jen knows, like, oh my gosh, Stephen is actually inspired by something. This is really fun. So what's going on with these particular things is that these comics here, and the covers are on the screen as well. These were born from characters that I developed when I was in college. And it was for a comic strip that was just this out of nowhere, just having fun work. And so these characters were really strange. I had this headless guy and this undertaker, and this another dude with no arms, and it was just there were the same kind of comic strips that I was describing earlier, just the single page comics where you'd have several panels and a gag at the end just on one page. And then I eventually started writing those just a few years ago into stories that you can probably just grab that chair and drag it back or something. And writing them as long form stories after studying the story form quite a bit. I went to school for art. I didn't go to school for any writing or anything like that. So I spent years just kind of researching how to write stories and things. And so that is where all of these stories came from. It'll be an 11-issue series that is just one story in 11 segments. And then let me see if I can bring this other one up here too. And this one in particular, so this one and this one, oh, come on, you want to do it, right? Okay, there you go. These are really good examples of what I just, no one has said that I can't do it, so I call it prophetic art. So the thing is that I had these ideas. I don't know, like I've been saying, I don't know where they come from necessarily. I mean, I think that they're spiritual. And then Judd, who actually just came in, he sent me this quote by Martin Luther, which really summarizes what's going on in in this illustration. So this is kind of a redo of an illustration that I did in a screen printing class in the late 90s. So, but what this is, and it's a function of something that Martin Luther actually describes pretty well. He says, we cannot prevent birds from flying over our heads, but we can prevent them from making nests on our heads. Similarly, bad thoughts sometimes appear in our minds, but we can choose whether we allow them to live there or create a nest for themselves and to breed evil deeds. So that, oddly enough, is kind of another description of this particular piece, which just came pretty spontaneously when I was doing it in the late 90s. I drew this guy with houses on his head and stuff like that, and I just thought that was some fun, interesting, wacky thing to do. I didn't think that it had any significance, and then later on, 20 years later, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that's like that thing I did in screen printing class. And then this one, and then after this, I'll open it up to questions and stuff. This is kind of a cornucopia of what is actually Christian symbolism. And you look at it and you're thinking, I don't know where you go to church, man, because that is not the kind of symbolism that I'm used to. And it's like, well, okay, fine. I mean, we don't have to fight about it or anything. But no, you've got the tree of life that isn't rooted in the soil of this ground, right? And then you've got the flying eyeballs. So these actually come, that was another spontaneous image that just, I was doing a composition and doing a bunch of ornamental stuff. And I was like, man, I got to put something in this space here. What am I going to put? And so I did this, I drew a little flying eyeball. I thought that would be kind of fun. And, but turns out I was walking down the street one day, praying and meditating on stuff as I would do in the morning. And I had one of these thoughts, and I know that most of you have had these, just these things. You're thinking about something, and then there's something that slips in that stops you. That you're like, what? Oh, wait a second. Whoa, that is an idea right there. Oh my gosh. And anyway, that's what those are. It's this spiritual way of seeing a new eyeball, and that you receive. And the trick with those is like, if you want them to stay there, you got to grab them and you got to eat them, because otherwise they just fly off, and you got to chew on it and stuff and really think about it so it doesn't get away. And then you got the, trumpet blowing flaming skeletons and stuff like that. It's pretty rich symbolism. I mean, if you got an appetite for it. But anyway, when I do stuff like this, I get real, just with my job and everything that we've got going on and stuff, I get overwhelmed. We just moved into a house a year ago, and we've got gardens, and it's like, oh, just this weekend we've got a chicken slaughter that we've got to do. We got to put 70 chickens into freezers, and so there's always something going on. So I get overwhelmed, and I think I got to do it all right away, and I get burnt out and depressed. But I notice when stuff like this happens, how important it is, and how important it is not to just have like a regular spiritual practice, but then to take that practice and let its depth contribute to the artistic expression that I've had ever since I was a kid, and really learning to combine those and make it into not just separate things that I do, but incorporate it all into, you make it into a way of life and a way of seeing things, always and throughout the day, and let it infect not only my work, but my relationships, and the things that I do has become really important here in the last few years. So I think that's all the comments I've got. That's all I've got to say as far as the presentation goes. So I don't know if you guys had any questions or anything.
training, did you say if you went to school for this? Or you
Mhm.
just-
Yeah, I went to school for this. Yeah, when I was getting started, I really wasn't sure how I was going to manage it, so I didn't know if you guys needed the whole biography thing or not. So I graduated from Iowa High School in 1995, and I went to the School of Visual Arts in New York City, and I was there for 4 years. I majored. I went there because they had a cartooning program, and let's see. I ended up not being in the cartooning program. I did illustration, which is actually these days an illustration degree would be in most contexts, it would be a concentration on drawing and painting skills and picture making skills and stuff like that. So that's what I ended up doing. So I took a lot of figure drawing classes, a lot of painting classes, and you know, the classes for, you know, oh shoot, you know, solving illustration problems, getting assignments and things like that. So that was what I kind of came out of school with. But I ended up studying with, oddly enough, I had classmates that were they got to be pretty big deals, I guess. You know, I still see people copying their stuff, you know, these days. So it was a really good experience from that education standpoint. So, any other questions?
I find it interesting that different styles that you use as one artist for all different kinds of stories and age levels is quite interesting.
Yeah,
You have
and
those kind of-
yeah, it's just weird, totally crazy things. Yeah, when let me see if I can find the example. This is well, these are pretty fair examples. So
That's quite people. Would you have a animal background?
yeah, I've got this one, the three cabritos, it's goats. And then this one is really cartoony. I was going to say I had this particular conundrum once. Oh, it was a few years ago, and I think I was working on the Wires and Nerve book that you mentioned, or it might have been this book, Artemis Fowl. So would be a middle grade, young adult sort of age group. And so I was doing this real comic booky style, like all the time. And then I had this recurring job where there was this series of books and I would do the covers of the books. And it was supposed to be this sort of cartoony style. I don't have the books on the table. It was A to Z mysteries. They were recovering them and I ended up doing all of them. And yeah, Rob Roy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember I did that book and I did the cover and I think they took it all the way to the final, and I had done it just without thinking too hard in this more sort of comic booky action sort of style when all of the others had been much more cartoony and fun looking. And they sent it back and they said, well, hey, about this. So I had to take the edge off of that particular thing because I was kind of letting the two styles get sort of mixed up. So oh shoot, no, I didn't ask. Who asked you? Who asked you? Well, okay, I was thinking this might be kind of fun to do. So I'll do these illustrations. I think I've actually got this particular one on my iPad, so let's see how quickly it loads up, if it's worth trying to find it. There it is. Whoop. What's that? There we go. So the way that I work these days, whoa, I've got a lot of layers here. Okay, so I'll turn on all of the stuff. So a lot of times I'll work on I'll work on these ideas. And I'll do so when I got started, I would do all this stuff on paper. So this is all totally doable on paper. Let's see, I'll turn this off. And so I started off with this concept of, I think I drew it like 3 by 2 inches or something like that. They're just really small, just scribbled it down. And then just to get the idea, the energy, the way that I want it to feel. Because that's really the thing. It's like you get an idea, but then really capturing one of the things that has been really important to me, one of the things I learned in school, oddly enough, was really not just drawing like an object, but then drawing the energy that the object possesses or that the object is engaged in. So I'm drawing an energetic idea rather than just a thing doing something else. So that's, and a lot of times the energetic idea is a thing that I capture really early on in the piece, right? Like right when I start. And let me see, this one was pretty wild. I don't remember if I kept everything on it or not. Don't think I did. I remember getting really rough with it, and I had all kinds of swirly lines going around it and stuff, and because I really wanted to capture all that energy. So, but on that, I'll take that original drawing, that scribble. So I call into the drawing is pretty generous actually. So, and then I'll take that and I'll lighten it up like a lot. So this is a mimicking of something that I would do by hand, where I would use so I mean, if you don't have a fancy computer, that's okay. I would use like a 2H pencil. Does anybody know like how the H's and the B's work on pencils? So like, you know, like a 2H, like there's a B, like that is right in the middle. And then the higher the number goes one way on the H, that's the harder it gets. And then the higher it goes the other way on the B scale, the softer it gets. So like a 6B is going to be a really dark, really soft pencil, and then a 6H is going to be like really hard to make any kind of line with. So I would use like a 2H to do all my drawings. So the line work would be, it wouldn't, the graphite was really still pretty hard. So it's not going to leave a lot of stuff on the paper, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over later and do more drawing on it. But this is going to be the preliminary drawing. And this one, actually nobody sees. This is only for me. So I set up all my stuff like this. So, you know, if I wasn't doing this on a computer, this would just be on a piece of paper. And then I would go and I would lay in over the top. So this would be with another softer pencil, like a 2B or a 3B or something like that. Probably at the time it was probably a 2B at the most. And then I keep working through the drawing there, adding things. Here it's really, it kind of spoils me, because I can, you know, if I'm not real sure about something, which is almost all the time, I'll think, oh, I'll just put it on another layer. And if I don't like it, I'm not screwing anything up. So let's see, I'll knock that kind of composition back even more. And then I just keep on adding stuff. Let's see, where did everything else go? Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, so this one, Oh, okay, this is actually what I was looking for earlier. Yeah, so I'm gonna turn this other stuff off. Hoping you guys are hanging with me. So this is another thing that only I would see. And then you guys are like, that's probably a good idea, buddy, because what kind of sense can you make out of that? So this is my whole, this would be my composition. This is like how I want everything to flow. I'll even, at this point, I'll take like a, oh, what are they, like the golden spiral Fibonacci sequences and stuff, and I'll take all kinds of compositional cheats and I'll superimpose that on top of the drawing to try to approximate classical compositions that I know are going to work aesthetically. I'm an illustrator. I don't do, I mean, I want to make sure that the expression works and that the expression connects with people. So I cheat as often as I need to, because I really want it. My goal is to make it work. So let's take that there and let me see here. Where did everything go? There we go. And then let me see. My layers aren't in the greatest order here. There's that crazy layer. So after I get the sketches done, and I think this one I actually did out of order. I started putting in the inks before I finished out the drawing. So I really knew that I wanted the tree to be kind of how it looked. So I went ahead and finished him off. And then you have the grass with all the other stuff growing in it. And then the blacks, I don't have a lot of confidence with blacks. I'm always afraid I'm going to screw something up. Like it was really tough when I was doing this by hand up until 2014. I would do all of the blacks would be done with a watercolor brush and India ink. So not if I made a mistake, it wasn't the end of the world, but I could fix it. But I would finish everything digitally, but all of the line work at that time was done by with brush and ink. So there's that whole thing. And so what I'll do at this point is I'll take this drawing and then it's pretty much done. Oh, there looks like there's a couple more sketchy lines in there, some layers I didn't quite figure out, but this will go into a Photoshop program on a computer, a PC or whatever. I use a Macintosh now. Up until a few years ago, I was using a PC, so I'm not real passionate about it either way. Although I can copy something on this and paste it onto my computer, which is really cool. So I don't know, that's been a recent change. So I'll take this and I will do all the coloring work underneath this drawing. And so that's how I've done, shoot, all of this other stuff. Let me see. I don't do it on the iPad just because the interface and the way that it works is a little bit clunky for me. I do so much in Photoshop that everything is really second nature, but the gist of it is pretty simple. I'll see about putting some color under this guy. And let's see. I have an admittedly convoluted way of working these days, but it works. It works for me. Okay. So yeah, all of these lines are basically transparent, so I can just color right underneath them. So pretty simple stuff. is kind of an adventure for me too, because I actually, I've never colored this particular character. He's pretty new. One of the things that I discovered as I was doing this particular project was how all these characters that I developed when I was in college, they were, I was really shocked to find how they were facets of myself, like my own personality and my own ways of thinking and my own ways of working and how I managed relationships and all kinds of things. It was a real disturbing surprise that as I started writing these characters in long form narratives, they started doing things that I was really surprised at and not always terribly comfortable with. So yeah, there you go. Get the idea for that stuff. That's the kind of color in. Oh, he's intelligence, right? Because okay, so the arrow through the head is, I took this character, I asked first, Mike Smale. Does anybody know Mike Smale? He's a local. He's Gary Hawk's grandson, and he's an artist. And he does these robots, paints these pictures of robots, and one of them was this robot, he called it Migraine. There was this robot, it was this design basically that had this robot that had an arrow through his head. And I thought that was pretty neat. And just to incorporate kind of what he was doing into what I mean, I could have designed my own robot, you know, but I thought it'd be fun to sort of link it up with somebody else. And you know, since we were from the same town and stuff, I thought that would be pretty neat. But I think it's really interesting how artificial intelligence has dived in, and the first thing that it was doing was all of the creative stuff that I was talking about before. All of the ideas out of nowhere. And it's like, well, you don't have to take the ideas out of nowhere. I'll just take them from all over the internet, and then, you know, human experience, and then boom, here you go, regurgitated. And why would you want to do anything else? And I think that's really interesting. You know, it's hard to think that actually doesn't betray the nature of the whole beast there. But so yeah, I could do this all night here, but are there any other questions? It's this, so in this story, he's an artist, so it's a box of paints that he goes, and they end up coming to this area of the Midwest in the story, even though in this particular time period, it's all like desert, but he comes out here to paint the landscapes and the sunsets and stuff. So that's what he's doing. He's got the paints and stuff.
How much natural talent did you have, like growing up before you went to college? Did you do drawing a lot as a kid? Was it some natural talent that you started out with?
Well, that's interesting. I actually wrote this story out because I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to structure the talk. So I'm going to leave that open, I guess, don't I? I recalled the time when I first drew anything. I was in church, and I was really young. I was too young to read, and I don't know, my dad would know better than me probably. I might have been 3 or something, or I just remember, you know, church was pretty boring, and it was hard to sit still and stuff. And yeah. So it was it was the first time that I drew anything. And what happened was, my dad took a pew, like an offering envelope. And then he took one of the little offering pencils, which is just chewed down a little nub of stuff. And then he drew like a face on, I was just, he made this face appear on this offering envelope, this piece of paper out of nothing, like out of nowhere. And I was enthralled, like wow, that is so cool. And I remember trying it and I'm like, man, mine is not that good. Like, it was so hard to make faces as good as my dad did. And so that was the first time I ever remember drawing anything. And then it wasn't until probably second grade. And I mean, the only thing I can remember from second grade, other than the art experience I had, was throwing up in the hallway. Like, because I didn't make it to the, like, there's a time period when you're a kid where you're able to make it to the bathroom, but this is like pre being able to time that stuff out. I didn't make it, and it was like there's this other class coming down the hallway, and it was really embarrassing. But the other thing was art class, and in that time, we did art class in the basement of the Jefferson School. So we walked down. I remember it being dark. Like, it wasn't like a happy basement with windows and stuff. It was like a bomb shelter style basement. And so we're walking down there, and Mr. Orcutt would have these stories about the different media that he introduced. And this time it was watercolor. And I don't remember the story. The only story I can remember is the rubber cement is actually eagle snot story. Yeah, which was awesome. But then, and I'm sure he had one for watercolors, but I don't remember what it was. I just remember hating the watercolor, and I still don't like watercolor, but it's like, that's the only thing that's easy to throw in the bag and just do on the go. So I still do it grudgingly. But I did this watercolor painting of, it was like Halloween season. So I did this graveyard scene. I think we all did graveyard scenes, and I did like Dracula, and he had like blood coming off of like his fangs and stuff. And I didn't know, but I guess it got entered into a contest, and I won $5. And so that was pretty neat. And it was hanging up on the wall at our house for a long time. And so I didn't like attach the money to it at all at that point, but it was like, oh, that's something that I can kind of do. So, from then on, I had these moments of sort of picking it up, more seriously. And then, well, the thing is that Mr. Orcutt was a fantastic, I would call him the key master. Like, he could unlock potentials in kids. I wasn't the only one. He could like see something that kid had. Not all of, I mean, I think everybody's got something inside, like just brewing, but he in particular could hone, could discover these artistic propensities in people and really bring them out. And I think I'd owe a lot to him for that, because it was that was where the real love and appreciation of not just making a picture, but doing like really digging into my imagination and bringing something out. So, and then attaching a talent to that, and the talent that you might see is actually just a lot of work and probably a personal attention to detail. Like, I can hyper focus on stuff and just sit there for hours, and I'm okay with it, So that's how that ended up, I think. Okay.
You always took the napkins and would have a drawing.
Oh yeah. They were the fork and spoon holder envelope deals. I would do a drawing on that. Well, I mean, the thing is like, so when you see me out and about. I think it's a disability, really, because if I don't have something, like if I can't do something and I'm just sitting there waiting, I get really edgy. It's not, I mean, it's not good, because it's like I get really impatient, and I have to be doing something. I have to be drawing, you know? So I'll carry this all over the place. It's kind of embarrassing that I do it, but if I'm in a context where I don't really have anything to pay attention to necessarily, and no one's talking, like I love conversation, I love doing all that kind of stuff, but I mean, I'm surprised just in the course of life how long we just have to sit and wait for stuff, and that drives me insane. So anyway, so that's my go-to, just drawing. If I don't have this with me, I will, you know, start doodling on something else. If I can't think of anything, I'll just start drawing spirally stuff and put hair on it and things like that, you know. So that's just definitely how I'm wired. But
Is this a freestanding drawing or is that part of the book?
it's kind of a summary of the characters that are in my comic series. So I'm working on this to be my vision for it. And I don't know if it's going to work or not, but we'll see. I'm going to make a postcard that people can pick up, and it'll have a little QR code on it that will take you to the website where you can buy the books or find out more about them, and a little summary on the back that'll say what the series is about. Because, you know, the books are, you know, it's $6 a piece, and or all 5 for $25. But that's a commitment, you know, and you don't know if it's any good or not. And so I want to be able to get, you know, people interested, and it's kind of like a hook, like a little. But I also wanted the hook to look nice in and of itself and be able to stand on its own. So that's kind of the idea behind this particular piece. And like I was saying before, you know, these are each, you know, different facets of my personality. You know, this guy, he has a little tag above him that says folly. You know, that this guy's the gardener, this guy's the victim. And it's really funny because I didn't think of any of this when I was developing the characters. But for instance, the victim, how did he get in the tree if he doesn't have any arms? You notice he doesn't have any arms. But you know, the victim mentality is basically, there was nothing I could do. I don't have any arms. But the thing is that something's going on because he got up in the tree. You know, so this particular character, part of his character was just, he would just complain about the stuff that was going on in the world, and that's kind of what he does in the story. The Bigfoot, where did it? I was trying to think if it actually corresponded to, well, it's the Lehigh Man is actually his name. He was like, I was taking like local folklore that Ben, the bike shop guy, was developing, you know, with the Lehigh Man, and after Ben, he's got a cat, and so I put the cat in there. He found that cat like on one of these rides and stuff, and as a kitten, swimming in the water or something, and but yeah, this one was really weird. The professional, so he's an undertaker, and so you can't see it in this illustration, but this guy up at the top of the tree, he's a headless man. He's actually on the cover of this book, but he actually doesn't have a head, and it's a mannequin head in this particular thing. And when I was creating these characters in college, I just thought it would be this weird, macabre kind of idea to have this undertaker, like Wile E. Coyote chasing the Roadrunner, going after the headless man. I just thought that would be funny and weird. But and I knew when I was drawing this guy, when I invented him, he had some kind of addiction issues. Like I don't know if he was an alcoholic or whatever my teenage mind was thinking of. But I figured out as I was writing him now that he was the workaholic that I tend towards myself. You know, everything in this guy's world. I didn't figure this out until I had written so much of the story, and I'm like, oh my gosh, his name is actually Undertaker. Like he's always undertaking something. He's always occupied in his work. And then when he gets close to this headless guy, he actually touches him, and he gets these crazy visions of who he was actually meant to be and what he should be doing. Has visions of himself with a family and a child and stuff like that, and it just rocks his world. And anyway, so it's really interesting how much I'm learning about myself as I've done this story. So, man, okay.
Years ago, when in the bolus, when they had was the Mary Martin,
Mm-hmm.
that they displayed your stuff, and it was all pictures kind of like this, all around the room on the walls. And I got about halfway around, and I just stopped realizing that and I was amazed because it's not just that you have an artistic talent for drawing the pictures, but you have a second exceptional talent in what you draw, all this stuff that comes to you, the characters and the way you draw them and everything, and just realizing how different that was. Your pictures, it's not just your typical picture.
Yeah.
And do you have a book or anything like that that's just got your paintings in, or?
I don't have anything that right now that just has the paintings. And I think about that, like, in a way, this isn't. So the short answer is no. I don't just have a painting book. Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is that I would do a print of the painting, and I've done that. And I guess I did have some laying around. But yeah, this is this would be the painting, I guess, as a narrative, as a long form story, so.
This might be a good time for people to come have a chance to come look at some of the.
Oh, yeah, there you go. We got 5 minutes, and the library people probably want to go home. So feel free to browse and check everything out. And everything is available for sale except for the iPad and this journal that I got here. So I'll take, and the microphones. I think they want to keep their microphones. But anyway, thanks for coming out. I really wasn't sure. I'm excited that the room got filled up as much as it did. So that's cool. So anyway, it's good to see you all. Well, I'm actually missing other books too. Since the move, I'd misplaced a box or two, so I don't know where some stuff is. So nice.
I would like to mention that tonight, for the first time, we're recording one of the library programs. And Darren has helped him set it up and stuff with us all evening. Darren Doherty is one of our key tech people. And he's gonna do a little work on it, and we expect this to be up on YouTube sometime tomorrow. So I'll be posting information, or we'll put something up in the library to let you know. But I will announce it on Facebook when it's up and ready to go. So.
What's that? I got a lot. This is just it's just what I had on hand.
How much is it?
These comics are $6 or the whole set, and the postcard is 25. So that's all.
How much is it?
Okay. How much is the artist file?
Whatever. Whatever that says.
Yeah.
It might be on the inside. No.
I think it's inside.
I think I've got soft covers of that too.
Is Jay Swart the vagabond at all?
Oh, there it is.
It kind of looks like.
I was trying to, I had to think like, did I?
Are you walking around the junior high?
I think
I have a soft.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are you doing?
They're cool.
Oh, I'm.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, man, these probably took a lot of work being on the color.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
That would be nice. They're cheaper if you have soft covers.
Do you think the, like, you're splitting your personality in all these different parts?
I
I think other people used to do it.
this one and that one and that one.
Hi, Roger. They were
How
kind
you doing?
Good, how are you, buddy?
Pretty good, pretty good. Staying
Yeah.
busy?
Yeah.
You over at the Gilpin house doing yard work or something? once in a while?
Yeah, I was babysitting today.
42.
Little Penny's James, you've seen it on video.
I seen a little girl once in a while, they walked in the alley.
This is little brother, yeah.
Haven't noticed him, but yeah. I seen the girl with Jim and Karen.
I'd buy a couple of
up
stickers
down
for
there.
that on.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's Emery, that's his older
Is this the
sister.
standard American diet?
Yeah.
They introduced me to her, she's a little bit of a talker, so. that was-
Yeah. She's really bright.
How's your mom getting along?
Really good.